When the relentless Texas sun scorched the earth and turned once lush pastures into cracked, desolate soil, the managers of the 6666 Ranch made a bold and painful choice. They didn't act out of panic or profit, they acted out of reverence for the land. In one of the most severe droughts in recent history, they moved thousands of head of cattle out of Texas. Not because they had to, but because the land couldn't take it anymore. It was an act of protection, of preservation. The livestock was sold for over $300 million, a figure that speaks not just to the scale of their operation, but to the value they placed on sustainability over short-term gain. And even after parting with that much cattle, the ranch didn't falter. It remained a leader in the world of elite quarter horses, overseeing one of the most prestigious equine breeding programs on Earth. Today, its legendary pastures aren't just home to livestock and bloodlines, they're also part of pop culture, integrated into the cinematic world of Yellowstone, a TV series that has made the soul of the ranch visible to millions. Calling it just a ranch would be a grave understatement. The 6666 Ranch, universally known as the Four Sixes, isn't just land and livestock. It's a living epic of American grit, strategic brilliance, and generational legacy. This is a place where oil was struck beneath grazing lands, where bloodlines were refined like fine wine, and where ranching isn't just work, it's a philosophy. It's no wonder the ranch caught the eye of Hollywood producers. This isn't a story you write, this is a world you inherit. Over the decades, Four Sixes has seen cattle barons, oil magnates, horse breeders, and now screenwriters walk its fields. Each left a mark, but none overshadowed the original vision. In this deep dive, we peel back the myth to expose the truth, that the real story of the Four Sixes is more dramatic, more impressive, and more enduring than any legend could hope to be. If you believe that business, cultural heritage, and harmony with nature belong to a bygone era, think again. The legacy of the Four Sixes lives not in dusty textbooks but in hoofbeats, weathered saddles, and genetic blueprints designed to outlast the century. Here, tradition and innovation ride side by side. This is not merely a cattle ranch or a horse operation. This is a cultural institution. Every colt born here is part of a legacy. Every blade of grass that survives a drought is a quiet miracle. The ranch represents a philosophy. That legacy isn't inherited, it's earned, maintained, and passed forward with integrity. Though its origin traces back to the days of open ranges and wild longhorns, the ranch's relevance hasn't faded. It remains, to this day, a beacon of what Texas once was and still strives to be. The story of the Four Sixes Ranch begins not with fame or wealth, but with a 21-year-old cowboy named Samuel Burke Burnett and a herd of 100 cattle. In 1870, Burnett purchased those animals from a rancher named Frank Crowley, but what made that deal special wasn't the livestock alone. Every one of those cattle bore a unique and unmistakable brand: Four Sixes. To Burnett, this wasn't just a mark of ownership. It was a symbol of integrity, protection, and permanence in a land plagued by rustlers and shifting alliances. So powerful was that vision that he purchased the rights to the brand itself, vowing to make it the cornerstone of a legacy. Forget the tale that claims Burnett won the ranch in a high-stakes poker game holding a lucky hand of Four Sixes. That story, while romantic and cinematic, is more legend than fact, yet it persists because it fits the spirit of the place. The truth, however, is even more compelling. Burnett didn't gamble his way into greatness. He built it one hoofprint at a time. In an era of open range, uncertain laws, and unpredictable climates, he saw not chaos but opportunity. The Four Sixes brand became a beacon, one that stood for honest breeding, durable stock, and a relentless work ethic. It wasn't born from cards. It was born from vision. Burke Burnett was not your average rancher. By the late 19th century, he was negotiating leases with Native American tribes in what is now Oklahoma, at a time when most white landowners sought only to displace them. Instead, Burnett gained the trust of Comanche leader Quanah Parker, forging partnerships that expanded his operations into tribal lands and cemented his reputation as a man of honor as well as ambition. While other cattlemen chased headlines, Burnett chased innovation, improving his herd through selective breeding, mixing longhorns with Durham shorthorns and later purebred Herefords to create livestock that could withstand the brutal climate and still yield top-tier beef. By 1900, Burnett had acquired land in King County, Texas, that would become the epicenter of the 4-6's empire. His decision to establish the headquarters near Guthrie was no accident. The area's combination of dependable water sources and rich grazing fields made it ideal for sustaining large herds. And in 1917, he made a statement that echoed across the plains, constructing a 21-room ranch house designed by top architects, costing over $100,000 at the time, an astronomical figure. It wasn't just a home, it was a fortress of permanence, a monument that declared, "The 4-6 is here to stay." The early 20th century brought both devastation and transformation to the 4-6 ranch. In 1918, a catastrophic winter storm swept through West Texas, killing over 2,000 head of Burnett's cattle in a single blow. The losses were staggering, a grim reminder that even the most robust ranches are at the mercy of nature's fury. But true to form, Burnett and his team didn't retreat, they adapted. They rebuilt smarter, more strategically, with renewed respect for the volatile Texan climate. Then, in 1921, fate turned in Burnett's favor once again. Deep beneath the Dixon Creek pastures, oil was discovered. The first well gushed 175 barrels on its first day and kept producing for over 50 years. It wasn't just a good strike, it was the first major oil discovery in the Texas Panhandle and marked the ranch's transformation from a livestock operation to a dual-power empire of cattle and crude. Pumpjacks soon dotted the landscape, and the 4-6 gained another identity, energy titan. Although Burke Burnett died just a year later, in 1922, he lived long enough to witness the dawn of this second fortune. In a letter to a friend, he once wrote with a wink of wisdom, "There's more money in oil than in cattle, don't you think?" Time proved him right. Oil would become the ranch's shield during economic downturns, weather disasters, and war. It would not only protect the legacy, it would supercharge it. After Samuel Burke Burnett's passing, the legacy didn't end, it evolved. The next great chapter of the 4-6 was written not by another cowboy, but by his granddaughter, Anne Valiant Burnett, later known as Anne Burnett Tandy. At a time when the ranching world was still overwhelmingly dominated by men, Anne stepped into the spotlight with the strength and foresight of a seasoned trail boss. In the 1920s and 30s, she took over the reins of the ranch and drove its transformation from a regional powerhouse into one of the largest and most respected cattle operations in Texas. By 1936, the 4-6 was home to over 20,000 head of purebred Hereford cattle, a number that boggles the mind even by today's standards. And didn't just continue the family tradition, she modernized it. She understood that quality mattered more than quantity, and under her leadership, the ranch became a bastion of selective breeding and cattle genetics. But her vision extended beyond bovines, and had a deep passion for horses and poured her energy into building a quarter-horse breeding program that would soon rival any in the nation. She brought in stallions like Gray Badger II and Hollywood Gold, names that would become foundational to the entire quarter-horse industry. These weren't just horses. They were dynasties on 4 legs. By the mid-20th century, the 4-6 ranch wasn't just an agricultural operation, it was a cultural icon. The red barns and rolling plains of the property became synonymous with the cowboy lifestyle, and advertisers took notice. During the 1960s and 70s, the ranch's cinematic scenery appeared in National Marlboro cigarette ads, reinforcing the romantic image of rugged individualism that defined American masculinity. The 4-6 became not just a place, but a symbol of freedom, endurance, and the enduring strength of the American West. Hollywood soon followed. In 1975, the ranch served as a filming location for Macintosh and T.J., a Western movie starring Roy Rogers. For the first time, moviegoers got a glimpse of the real-life grandeur that lay behind the 4-6's brand. And what they saw was not a constructed set, but an authentic, functioning ranch that had been living its legend for nearly a century. The land, the livestock, and the people were real, and that authenticity resonated far beyond Texas. It cemented the 4-6 not only as a working ranch but as a cultural landmark. A real-life Western, still unfolding, still being written with every hoofbeat. As the century turned again, the ranch came under the guidance of Anne Burnett Marion, great-granddaughter of Burke Burnett and daughter of Anne Tandy. Known simply as Anne Marion, she was more than a ranch owner. She was a philanthropist, business mogul, and cultural force in her own right. With the help of skilled managers like Joe Kirk Fulton and later Joe Leathers, Marion ushered the ranch into the modern age without sacrificing an ounce of its character. Under her leadership, the 4/6s diversified its herds, introducing hybrid black baldy cattle, crossbreeds between Brahman and Angus designed for heat resistance, pest control, and meat quality. Eventually, the focus shifted entirely to purebred Angus, a response to market demand and a strategic move to position the ranch at the premium end of the beef industry. On the equine side, Marion doubled down on the quarter horse program. With the guidance of the legendary veterinarian Dr. Glenn Blodgett, the ranch produced racehorses and working horses whose bloodlines dominated both racetracks and rodeo circuits. Horses like Dash for Cash, Streakin' Six, and Special Effort became legends, earning tens of millions in winnings and transforming the ranch into a global leader in quarter horse breeding. When Marion passed away in 2020, it marked the end of a direct family lineage that had stewarded the 4/6s ranch for more than 150 years. For the first time in its storied existence, the ranch was put up for sale. The news sent ripples through Texas and beyond. How do you place a price tag on something that has become a symbol of the state itself? But as with everything about the 4/6s, even this transition became part of the legend. In 2022, the ranch was purchased by a group led by Hollywood producer, actor, and real-life cowboy Taylor Sheridan, best known as the creator of Yellowstone. The deal included not just the main ranch in Guthrie, but also the Dixon Creek and Frisco Creek divisions, totaling an astonishing 266,000 acres. The sale price? A jaw-dropping $341 million. But Sheridan didn't just buy a ranch, he bought a legacy. And with that came a sense of duty. Rather than overhaul the operation, the new ownership retained much of the existing staff, keeping the heart of the 4/6s beating strong. In many ways, it was less a sale and more a passing of the torch, from one era to the next, from heritage to pop culture, from cattle empire to cinematic universe. Though known for horses and history, the 4/6s remains, at its core, a cattle ranch, and one of the most efficient and respected in the world. With approximately 7,000 mother cows spread across its pastures, the ranch operates as a full-scale cow-calf operation. Calves are raised for either breeding or for the premium beef market, and nearly every aspect of the process is handled internally, from birth to branding to sale. This isn't ranching as a tradition, it's ranching as a vertically integrated science. The 4/6s has also embraced the direct-to-consumer movement by launching the 4/6s Ranch Brand Beef program. Now, customers across the U.S. can order hand-selected cuts of beef from animals born and raised on the ranch's pristine pastures. And because the cattle are bred with superior Angus genetics, raised on open grasslands, and finished with an eye for flavor and consistency, the beef stands out for its rich marbling, tenderness, and ethical production methods. With each steak sold, the ranch isn't just feeding people, it's sharing its values of excellence, sustainability, and heritage. If cattle are the foundation of the ranch, then horses are its crown jewel. The 4/6s operates one of the most sophisticated and successful quarter horse breeding programs on earth. With over 40 top-tier stallions standing at the ranch, some owned by private clients, others by the operation itself, the breeding barns are a hive of elite genetics and expert management. These horses are not mass-produced, they are sculpted, nurtured, and evaluated with surgical precision. Each year, more than 100 elite broodmares are bred to these stallions, producing foals with bloodlines coveted across the world. What sets these horses apart is more than pedigree, it's the result of decades of refinement. 4/6s horses are known for their intelligence, athleticism, and unshakable temperament, traits essential whether the animal is headed for a working ranch, a rodeo arena, or a racetrack. The ranch also fully embraces reproductive technology, shipping cooled and frozen semen globally, enabling breeders from as far away as Brazil and Australia to access the 4/6s bloodline. The proof is in the sales. At the 2024 Return to the Remuda sale, co-hosted by the 4/6s alongside other legendary ranches, 148 horses were sold, grossing over $3.3 million, with individual animals fetching up to $100,000. These aren't just horses. They are living legacies. Managing more than 250,000 acres isn't just a logistical challenge, it's a philosophical one. At the 4/6s ranch, land isn't treated as a commodity, it's a partner. Spread across 119 rotational pastures, some as vast as 16,000 acres, the ranch's grazing strategy reflects decades of ecological study and practical wisdom. Stocking rates are kept intentionally low, about 1 cow-calf pair per 30 acres. This not only prevents overgrazing, but allows the native grasses to regenerate, maintaining the health of a semi-arid ecosystem prone to drought. Water is life in Texas, and the ranch has built a resilient, decentralized water infrastructure to support both cattle and wildlife. Across the terrain are 18 solar-powered wells, 29 traditional windmills, and 10 high-capacity submersible pumps feeding 66 strategically placed watering points. This network allows every pasture to stay productive, even in regions far from natural creeks. The goal is balance, keeping herds healthy while also preserving soil integrity, plant diversity, and wildlife corridors. In a world obsessed with extraction and short-term gain, the 4-6's ranch stands as a monument to long-term thinking, where the soil beneath your boots is as important as the cattle above it. One of the clearest demonstrations of the ranch's commitment to stewardship came during the devastating drought of 2011. As pastures turned to dust and water supplies shrank, the ranch faced a choice that would test its ethics and resolve. Rather than overgraze and permanently damage the land, the leadership made a radical decision. They relocated the entire cattle herd out of Texas in search of temporary grazing. It was a logistical feat involving hundreds of transport vehicles and months of coordination, but it preserved the integrity of the ranch's pastures and, more importantly, its long-term future. In making this decision, the ranch didn't just save grass, it saved its genetics. The herd, carefully bred over generations, was too valuable to lose to desperation. And their return, after the rains came, marked a quiet triumph of patience over panic. For this bold and selfless move, the ranch was awarded multiple environmental stewardship honors, including the Texas and Southwestern Cattle Raisers Association's Grazing Management Award and a National Environmental Stewardship Award. Today, the ranch uses RFID technology and ultra-high-frequency tracking to manage cattle health, breeding, and movement, ensuring that even ancient traditions are supported by cutting-edge innovation. In short, 4-6's doesn't just adapt to nature, it listens to it. The 4-6's isn't only a home for livestock, it's a sanctuary for wild creatures, too. Deer, bobwhite quail, wild hogs, doves, coyotes, and bobcats roam freely across the ranch, thriving alongside cattle in one of the last strongholds of managed, mixed-use ecosystems in the American West. But this is not an accidental side effect, it's an intentional philosophy. The ranch's approach to wildlife isn't to control it, but to coexist with it. Commercial hunting is restricted or banned in many parts of the property to protect animal populations and ensure ecological balance. In collaboration with Texas Tech University, the ranch is also a key partner in the Quail Tech Alliance, an ambitious initiative turning massive ranches into living laboratories for the study and revival of declining quail populations. Scientists work directly on the land, monitoring habitats, experimenting with restoration strategies, and advising ranch staff on how to support avian biodiversity without compromising livestock productivity. Through rotational grazing, selective brush clearing, and water access planning, the ranch has created a model where both cowboys and conservationists can thrive. Visitors might catch a glimpse of a trophy whitetail bounding through the mesquite or a whirlwind of quail bursting from tall grass, testimonies to a ranch that respects every life that calls it home. While cattle and horses made the 4-6's famous, it was oil that fortified it. The discovery of oil beneath the Dixon Creek Division in 1921 transformed the ranch into an energy powerhouse. What began as a fortunate find quickly became a second backbone of the operation. The early wells, like the one that produced 175 barrels on its first day, brought not only immediate revenue but decades of consistent output. Pump jacks became permanent fixtures on the horizon, their mechanical rhythm blending into the symphony of ranch life. And long after Burke Burnett's passing, his energy legacy endured. Over the decades, additional wells were drilled across the property, including a major field discovered in 1969. By 2018, energy companies like Burnett Oil Company were still leasing thousands of acres of the ranch for exploration and development. But the ranch didn't just sell its minerals and walk away. It maintained partial ownership of its mineral rights in subsequent land sales, ensuring that profits from oil and gas would continue to support ranch operations, community development, and conservation. Looking to the future, the Four Sixes is poised to enter the renewable era as well. The 2022 sale listing included rights for solar and wind energy development, signaling that the same wind that once powered old water-pumping windmills could soon power homes across Texas. Energy is in the ranch's DNA, and always will be. When Taylor Sheridan acquired the Four Sixes Ranch, he didn't just bring money, he brought Hollywood. The creator of Yellowstone, 1883, and 1923 had already shown his love for Western storytelling, but now he had something even better, a real ranch with a real legacy that could stand in as a character in its own right. The ranch made its on-screen debut during Yellowstone's 4th season, where the storyline took a detour into Texas and introduced viewers to the living, breathing Four Sixes. The moment was more than fan service. It was a soft launch for a planned spin-off series titled 6666, which will be set entirely on the ranch. Though still in development, the show promises to merge fact and fiction, showcasing both the gritty reality of ranch life and the epic grandeur of Texas ranching culture. Fans around the world are already eager to see what unfolds. Meanwhile, the ranch has cautiously opened its gates to limited public tours, welcoming Yellowstone enthusiasts to walk the same pastures as the real-life cowboys and cattle that made this place famous. And the Four Sixes brand is riding that wave, now emblazoned on clothing, leather goods, and even a new line of barbecue sauces and rubs. It's a cultural crossover that few ranches have ever achieved, and a reminder that the Four Sixes knows how to evolve without losing its soul. In a time where land is bought, sold, and flipped like stock, the Four Sixes Ranch is a defiant reminder that some things are worth building slowly, protecting fiercely, and passing on with pride. It's not just a ranch. It's an ecosystem, a business, a school of horsemanship, and a beating heart of the Texan mythos. It has weathered droughts, blizzards, dust storms, economic recessions, and generational change. And yet it stands, unchanged in values, unbroken in spirit. From the first 100 branded Longhorns to the multimillion-dollar auctions of race-ready quarter horses, from the wooden windmills to solar wells, from handwritten breeding records to RFID data tracking, the Four Sixes doesn't merely represent the past, it defines the standard for the future of ranching. It's where grit meets grace, and where every hoofprint adds another verse to a story that spans centuries. The Four Sixes is no longer just a chapter in Texas history, it's the prologue of what's still to come. Some stories don't need embellishment, they just need to be told right. The story of the Four Sixes Ranch is one of those rare sagas where every chapter is etched not in ink, but in blood, dust, hoofprints, and steel. It's a legacy built not from luck, but from an unbreakable chain of vision, grit, and sacrifice passed down through generations. It is a living monument to a time when men and women built kingdoms out of cattle, carved empires from wide-open plains, and treated the land as both resource and religion. And yet, the Four Sixes is no museum. It's not frozen in nostalgia. With every sunrise over Guthrie, Texas, it continues to breathe, adapt, and inspire. Cowboys still saddle up before dawn. Calves are still born into the dust and wind. Foals still take their first shaky steps in the same pastures that raised champions. The ranch may now belong partially to Hollywood, but its soul remains stitched into the rawhide of the frontier. More than 150 years after a young man bought 100 branded cattle, the Four Sixes stands as proof that you don't have to choose between heritage and progress. You can honor the past while riding full speed into the future. Because here, in the heart of Texas, legacy isn't just inherited. It's earned, one season, one storm, one hoofbeat at a time.